Welcome viewers to this session. In this session, we will discuss on Sankhya metaphysics, where we will discussing that how Sankhya prescribes its doctrine, the theory of causation known as Satkaryavada. Before doing that, to make you engage in this session, I would like to bring your notice what we have discussed in the last class on Sankhya, when we have discussed a historical background of Sankhya philosophy, also discussed about various components that we find in Sankhya philosophy, how Sankhya philosophy believes about the worldly affairs, why Sankhya philosophy name is Sankhya, who has given the name Sankhya, and who is the founder of Sankhya, what it means by Sankhya, all these things. Just for your brief recapitulation, Kapila is the founder of Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy is a dualistic realism. Dualistic means it believes in two ultimate realities, one is Purusha, another is Prakriti. Prakriti is understood as matter, Purusha is understood as self. They also believe there is not only one self, but also there are many selves. That means there are many Purushas. They also equally give emphasis on the existence of matter, that is non-entities. The entities is an object and non-entities having the soul or self. They have given the equal importance for the existence of self as well as the existence of matter. So, therefore, they are dualistic and also in the same time they are realistic. Henceforth, we call them Sankhya philosophy dualistic realism. Also, we had discussed in the last class that Sankhya as a philosophy, people consider the term Sankhya derived from the word Sankhya, that means number. Why they have considered that Sankhya philosophy derives from the term Sankhya? Because for them Sankhya deals with the existence of the objects in the world, and they know that there are different objects exist in this world, and they have a different size, they have different shapes. So, therefore, they have given an opportunity to count, to say that there are not only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 objects are exist. What they are saying is that there are n number of objects exist and they are also equally real. So, this is the brief that we have discussed in the last class. This class will say that whatever Sankhya is arguing, or they are arguing based on a certain doctrine or principle or theory, the theory that they prescribe is known as Satkaryavada or theory of causation, because they believe if everything is happening in this world, there is a cause behind this, and also they believe that every effect must have a cause and the effect pre-exists in the cause prior to its production. I repeat, when they prescribe the theory Satkaryavada, they said that the effect exists in its cause prior to its production. That is the theory all about the Satkaryavada. Now, in this session we will be discussing that whatever the theory the Sankhya philosophy is given for establishing the existence of various self or souls, and also the different numbers or various objects in this world, and we will see also why other schools are not accepting this theory Satkaryavada, what is the problem lies in Satkaryavada, and how Sankhya defends them by saying that this theory has its own stamina for its argument. Therefore, this theory cannot be rejected. In the later period, we will find that how really this theory helps Sankhya to establish his other dimensions of the evolution in this world, how that Purusha and Prakriti also established based on this doctrine. That Prakriti and Purusha will be discussing next and next classes, in the future classes, but today only, now we will be only focusing our discussion on the theory of Satkaryavada. Now, as I said, you can see the theory of Satkaryavada that they prescribe, which is known as theory of causation. I will repeat by saying that they are the dualistic realist philosophers, because they believe there are two ultimate realities, one is Prakriti and Purusha, and also when they say Purusha, they say that there is not only one Purusha, there are many Purushas exist in this world, like there are many objects exist in this world. Therefore, they said that the importance that we give for the existence of matter also equally follow in case of Purusha or self. That means, when you say that a self exists, in the equally emphasis we can also give the existence of entities. Therefore, we can conclude by saying that they believe that the conscious or unconscious entity exists in this world and we can count them. Therefore, few of these scholars believe that the term Sankhya derived from the word Sankhya. They subscribe the principle Satkaryavada, which is known as theory of causation. Now, we will be discussing what is they really mean by Satkaryavada and why they prescribe these norms and what is the real issue behind this, or what is the essence of this theory Satkaryavada. As you can see in my slide, that the expression Satkaryavada encompasses three words. One is Sat, second one is Karya, the third one is Vada. I would like to remind you that when I said Karya, since it is a Ka, the pronunciation is Ka, above the A there is a line. In the same way, it is a Sanskrit, we have to pronounce and we have to write it. Now, coming to the issue, that Satkaryavada encompasses the three terms is known as Sat, Karya, Vada. Sat means existed, Karya means effect, Vada means doctrine. What they mean is that the effect exists in the cause prior to its production. I will give an example for your understanding. If I say there is clay or mud, you say that an artist can produce a pot or a bowl from clay or from the mud. The mud is a material cause, whereas the pot is in its effect. Another example I will give, if I say milk turns into curd, here curd is an effect, whereas milk is its cause. This is a material cause. That means, if curd is an effect which is produced from the milk, we can only say that this curd can be produced from milk. That means, there is cause and effect, the inherent relation, it cannot be separated from each other. Wherever there is a curd, it assumes that the root cause of curd will be milk, or say that the material cause of the curd, which is an effect, will be the milk. Another example, if thread is the material cause, then cloth will be the effect. So, what Sankhya argues that if there is an effect, it must exist in its material cause prior to its production. Before the curd comes to the existence, it was there in the milk. If it is not there in the milk, how curd comes out? Why curd cannot be bring from any other causes like mud, like thread, like stones, etc., etc. So, therefore, for every effect there must have a cause, and the effect inherently exists in the cause prior to its production. That is the theory that they prescribe by the Sankhya philosophy. They said that this is the philosophy, this is the doctrine that they adhere, and based on that they establish the existence of Purusha, the existence of Prakriti, and also the existence of non-entities or entities in this world. Henceforth, for them this doctrine is the one and only one principle through which we can establish the all existence in this world, even the earthly existence itself. You can see further. What they mean is that the effect pre-exists in the material cause in an unmanifested form, that is known as Satkaryavada. That means, when there is an effect, it is just manifested, but when it was not effect, then it was lies in its cause, it is an unmanifested form. When there is a curd, it is already manifested, the milk already manifested in the form of curd, but when it was not curd, it hides in the material cause known as milk. Further, they said that the effect is not a new creation. If anything produced in the form of effect, it is not a new creation, it is all found in its material cause. That is what I have given an example. If the cloth is an effect, it is not a new creation, it is already exists in the material cause in the threads. So, in a combination of threads we find a cloth. So, hence cloth is not a new creation for according to Sankhya philosophy. What they subscribe that the theory of Satkaryavada said that any fact that we find in the world in its in the material cause prior to its production. Satkaryavada is also known as Parinamvada. People also consider Satkaryavada as a different name having Parinamvada. Satkaryavada is different from Asatkaryavada. Now, we will be discussing what is Asatkaryavada. Asatkaryavada is opposing to Satkaryavada. Satkaryavada is prescribed by Sankhya philosophy, whereas Asatkaryavada is prescribed by Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhism. While they are saying that Asatkaryavada is opposite to Satkaryavada, they said that in Asatkaryavada we find every effect has a new creation, it has its different existence than the cause. The cause and effect, these two are different. Every effect or any of this effect cannot exist in its material cause prior to its production. They say that if curd is exist in the milk, then why can you have a different name saying that curd? Why can't you say that this is also milk, that is also milk? Why are you saying that it is a curd? So, therefore, they say that effect and cause has two different phenomena and exist differently. We cannot claim that effect exists in its material cause prior to its production. This is the theory prescribed by Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhism, going against the theory Satkaryavada which is prescribed by Sankhya philosophy. The theory of Satkaryavada is also known as Arambhavada. What is Arambhavada? Arambhavada means something has a new beginning. If the cause now transfer into a different phenomenon or effect, then the effect is a new creation, it is a new Arambha, it is a beginning. When there is a milk, it is a material cause, when there is a curd, it is an effect, right. If the effect is that, this is a new creation, it is a new beginning, therefore they say that it is a Arambhavada. So, hence for your understanding I must repeat, by according to Sankhya they said that Satkaryavada is a theory or doctrine for which we can establish that how entities and non-entities exist in this world, both conscious and unconscious entities that exist in the world, we can prove them by taking the theory known as Satkaryavada, which is known as also Parinamvada. On the other hand, Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhism, they said that we are going against the Sankhya theory because we have a strong argument when we are going against Sankhya theory that we are going to discuss. However, they said that we never prescribe the theory Satkaryavada and we cannot believe that and we cannot accept that because of the doctrine Satkaryavada the whole world exists, the entity of the whole world, the objects of the whole world exist. What they prescribe is known as the theory Asatkaryavada or Arambhavada. So, therefore, in one hand you find Sankhya who prescribes Satkaryavada or known as Parinamvada. On the other hand, you find Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhism, those who did not accept Sankhya theory, but they prescribe a different theory known as Asatkaryavada as well as Arambhavada. The Asatkaryavada is also known as or called as Arambhavada. There you can see that the doctrine Arambhavada states that effect does not exist in its material cause, it is a new phenomenon which is different from its cause. So, this is the way, this is the direction through which Sankhya theory prescribes their doctrine, and Nyaya Vaisheshika going against Sankhya theory prescribes a different doctrine. Now, the real question comes, does an effect originally exist in the material cause prior to its production? I repeat, does an effect originally exist in the material cause prior to its production? In other words, can we say that if milk is the material cause and curd is the effect, curd exists in the milk prior to its production? Can we say so? Now, on this issue there is an argument. Nyaya Vaisheshika argues that why we cannot say so. What is the really fault lies in the theory Satkaryavada? They have given few points, strong argument. Based on that, they say that all the entities that exist in this world, both conscious and unconscious entities, we cannot prove them by considering the doctrine which prescribed by Sankhya known as Satkaryavada. Now, let us discuss why Nyaya Vaisheshika rejects Sankhya theory of Satkaryavada. Now, there are 4-5 points where that Nyaya Vaisheshika find there are strong argument lies while rejecting the theory Satkaryavada. Now, the first point is that they said that we cannot claim that the effect exists in the material cause prior to its production, because if it were so, that means if the effect exists in the material cause prior to its production, then why at all we are calling this is effect, that is cause? Why you are saying, when we are saying that by identifying our finger, we are saying that this is milk, that is cord. If it is so, if the effect exists in the material cause, then we cannot say that this is effect, this is cause. There is two different phenomena when you say this is cause and that is effect. If at all this effect exists in the material cause, we can say that this is cause and also that is cause, or in other way we can say this is effect and also that is effect. That means when pointing out the finger saying that milk, we can say that this is a cause, and also pointing out the finger towards the cord, we can say also this is a cause. We cannot say so, because cord is different from milk and cord is a different form of a milk, and henceforth milk is different from cord, and as a result we cannot say that effect exists in its cause prior to its production. If cord exists in the milk, then what is the point where we can say that now it is a cord and earlier it was a milk? If it is there, we cannot make a distinction between cause and effect. Now, the second point they clearly mentioned that if the effect exists in the material cause as prescribed by Sankhya philosophy, then what is the use of efficient cause? That means when there is a clay which is a material cause and when there is a pot which is an effect, the effects of pot and the material cause of if pot is say let us say clay, the clay automatically cannot be transformed into a pot. There is a person, there is an artist with his technological tools creates a pot by the help of clay. So, there is an efficient cause also involved for transforming to a material cause to a particular object. The pot is created from the mud by someone who know that how to create a pot. So, that means the tools used while creating a pot or while producing a pot, also the efficient cause involved. Here Nyaya Vaisheshika argues that if the effect exists in the material cause, if the pot exists in the clay prior to its production, then what is the use of efficient cause? Why this efficient cause involved here? Why there is an artist involved here to create that pot? From clay we can create different things. Why only pot? Pot, bowls, glass, so on and so forth. Then can we claim that all the things are existed in the clay prior to its production? We cannot say, because the purpose for this clay and the purpose of the glass is totally different, and the name that we have given clay and the name that we have given for a glass also different name. If everything the effect exists in the material cause, then we cannot say that effect is a different form and the material cause exists in a different form. We cannot say so. The third point, they also argued that by saying that why can't we use the same name for both causes and effect? If we say that the clay is a material cause of the effect pot, then why can't we say that only one name for both cause and effect? Why can't we say by pointing out our finger by saying that this is clay and also that is clay by pointing out our finger to the pot? Why can't we say so? When we cannot say so, it simply implies that material cause and its effect are two different phenomena, and henceforth two different objects or entities exist in this world. We cannot say that the effect as a pot exists in the material cause. If you say so, then there is no point to give a different name for a different product. One product is clay, another product is pot. So hence we cannot say so, therefore we have to reject the theory prescribed by the Sankhya philosophy known as Satkaryavada. The fourth point, they argue that why can't the cause effect are used for the same purpose? Here what they are saying is that when there is a material cause clay is there and when there is a effect pot is there, as per the Sankhya philosophy, they say that the effect pre-exists in the material cause prior to production. Here Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhajimi argues that if this is so, in other words, the pot used for a different purpose, can you use the clay in the same purpose? the purpose for which we are using the pot, which is an effect, we cannot do so. Pot can be used for keeping waters, keeping any oil things or anything inside that pot, it can be saved. But can you use the clay for the same purpose? We cannot do so, and henceforth we cannot say that both are same entities. We cannot say that the pot as an effect exists in the material cause and also solving the same purpose. We cannot say so. Hence, we cannot say so the cause and effect are two different entities and can be separated from each other. And with these arguments, Nyaya Vaisheshika claim, and Buddhists also claim, that the theory that prescribed by the Sankhya philosophy is not a valid one, not a strong one. And further they say that if at all Sankhya philosophy convince by accepting that the cause and effect are two different phenomena because they have a different forms, then Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhism are very happy to accept this, because if at all Sankhya philosophy accept this, cause and effect are varies only in forms, then the Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhism saying that when there are two different forms, it simply means that two different objects, and henceforth the effect never exists in the cause prior to its production. That means whatever they argue as a theory of Asatkaryavada, it will sustain. However, the theory prescribed by Asatkaryavada, it will be declined or it will be rejected. But now we will see whether Sankhya accept these conditions that given by Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhism, or they have condemned all these allegations made against the theory Satkaryavada. Now we will see how Sankhya theory established the theory Satkaryavada for claiming that every effect exists in the material cause, because every event has a cause and cause effect has a relation. We cannot separate effect from the cause. If we separate, then we must believe that there should not be any inherent relation between cause and effect. Now we will see in the next slide how Sankhya theory established their argument while rejecting the allegations made by Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhist theory. Now, proofs of Satkaryavada. Now, this sloka I will be reading out for your benefit, that asat karanat upadana grahanat sarva sambhava bhavat saktasya sakya karanat karana bhavacha satkaryam. I repeat further, asat karanat upadana grahanat sarva sambhava bhavat saktasya sakya karanat karana bhavacha satkaryam. This is a sloka inserted by Ishwar Krishna, which is a commentary you find in Sankhya Karika. What it means is that the effect subsists even prior to the operation of cause. What they mean is that, what that Ishwar Krishna mean is that if you understand the Sankhya philosophy in a true spirit, in a proper spirit, what Sankhya philosophy prescribes is that though there is an efficient cause involved for transforming a material cause to the effect, prior to that efficient cause also the effect exists in its material cause. This sloka divides into 4 parts, and the last one is adding another part, so therefore 5 parts. First part is asad karanat, this is the first part. The second part will be upadana grahanat, the third part will be sarva sambhava bhavat, the fourth part will be saktasya sakya karanat, the fifth part will be karana bhavacha. So these are the 5 claims made by Sankhya philosophy for establishing, for proving the doctrine that Satkaryavada, that how effect exists in the material cause prior to its production. Now these are the 5 points we will be describing in the following slides. This is the Ishwar Krishna, when they inserted this sloka in the Sankhya Karika, he clearly means is that the theory has its own stamina to establish the existence of the worldly phenomena, the existence of both conscious entity and non-conscious entity in this earth. What he means even that before the efficient cause comes to the existence, the effect already lies in its material cause. If this is not so, then we cannot say that this effect comes from that cause. If the effect does not lie in that cause, that means that particular effect can be produced by any other causes, which is not the case. Giving an example, can we get cord from any of the causes, let us say oil seeds, sands or water, from any of this material cause can we get cord? We cannot get. Therefore, they say that the cord only can derives, the cord only exists when there is a milk. So, therefore, if you do not believe that cord exists in the milk prior to its production, that means it simply implies that cord can be derived from any of this material cause, for example, seeds, trees, sands, water, kerosene, etc., etc., which is not the case. Now, we will see what are the 5 arguments Sankhya given for establishing their theory Satkaryavada. Now, Sankhya highlights 5 points. First, they said that what is non-existence cannot be brought into existence by the operation of cause. I will read further. What is non-existence cannot be brought into existence by the operation of cause. What is saying that if something non-existent somewhere, can you bring something out of that? What is, that is what I just said that categorically, that if something does not exist in a particular cause, can you bring that existence further? If the pot does not exist in the material cause clay, can you bring the pot from any other material cause, from like rock, like sands, like waters, like any other causes? Can you bring so? We cannot bring so. Therefore, they are saying that the pot already existed in the material cause clay, henceforth by the help of efficient cause we are now getting a pot from the material cause clay. If the pot does not exist in the material cause, then it simply implies that pot can be brought from various causes, maybe causes like from any other material cause like say gold, like ornaments, any other things, which is not the case. Therefore, the first argument that defends to the Nyaya Vaisheshika saying that which is non-existence cannot be brought into existence. If the cord does not exist in the milk, we cannot brought the cord from the milk. Therefore, first argument they reject the Nyaya Vaisheshika argument that only Asatkaryavada can help to existence of objects in this earth. The second point they are saying that a particular effect can be produced from a particular cause. That means only these two things are inseparably related. A particular effect can be produced from a particular cause. That means that particular effect cannot be produced from any other causes. What they are saying is that if you say that this is a pot, you can produce only from clay. If this is a cord, you can produce only from milk. It cannot be produced from any other sources. If this is not so, then why we hesitate to accept that the effect exists in the material cause prior to its production. In the first point, when they say that nothing can be brings to the existence from the non-existence, what it means that if any of the artist will come, can that artist transform to the blue color to the red color or yellow color at any chance? Cannot be do so, because the red color cannot be brings from the blue color. Henceforth, whatever the efficient cause will be involved, if the effect does not exist in the material cause, cannot comes to the existence. The second point they are saying that if a effect can be produced from different material cause, then why can't we say that the cord can be produced from water, from kerosene, from sugar, from any of the material cause, but which is not the case. That means we have to accept that the effect exists in the material cause prior to its production. Now, if you see the argument, a blue color cannot be transformed to the red color or yellow color. That means you cannot brought the red color or green color from the blue color by any of the artist. That means whatever efficient cause you involved for transforming a material cause to the efficient cause, you cannot do that until unless the effect exists in the material cause. Now, the third point, they clearly state that there is impossibility of all things brings from all things. What they said that means there is an inherent relation that you find between cause and effect. You cannot bring everything from everything. That means you cannot bring a table from a glass, you cannot bring a glass from water, you cannot bring cord from, let us say, diesel, you cannot get diesel from any of these hard objects. That means, a particular effect must produce from a particular cause, and if this is not so, then we can get every object from any of this material cause, but which is not the case. We can only get cord from the milk, we can only get clothes from the threads. Here threads is the material cause and cloth is the effect. Henceforth, if we accept these norms that all things cannot be produced from each and everything, then we have to adhere to the principle of Satkaryavada, which states that every effect exists in its material cause prior to its production. This is the third argument. The fourth argument, they said that something can only be produced what is capable of producing. A potent cause has a causal energy to produce a particular effect. What they mean is that if a material cause does not have that causal energy to produce a particular effect, we cannot derive that effect at any cost. If the milk has not a causal energy to produce a cord, we cannot bring cord at any cost, whatever the efficient cause we involve. Whoever the person will be try to even convert from milk to cord cannot be do that. The question puts in this way: can we bring cord by any of the human being or any of the person from water? Can a person get cord from the kerosene? We cannot do so, because the milk has its energy, the milk has its capable of producing cord. That means, if the milk has not capable of producing the cord, we cannot think that the cord only be produced from the milk. We can think in other alternatives also, cord can be produced from any other liquids like water, kerosene, diesel, etc., but which is not the case. That means, a particular cause is capable of producing some particular effect. In other hand, they said that milk cannot produce a iron rod, milk cannot produce a plastic bucket, milk only can produce a cord. Henceforth, they say that whatever the efficient cause will be involved in between while transforming from a material cause to its effect, we find that the effect potentially lies in its material cause, otherwise the particular effect cannot be comes to the existence. And they say that while seeing the effect, we can only infer to the cause. That means, the effect has to be seen, and while the cause has to be inferred. That means, by seeing the cord, we can infer that it is existed in the milk prior to its production. It cannot be perceived, because no man can claim that now it is the time when milk transferred to the cord. No man can see that. For example, no man can identify that when his or her hair grows or nail grows, but after some time he or she realizes that the nail grows or the hair grows. In the same way, no one can point out that this is the moment, this is the time where the milk transferred to the cord. But however, by seeing the cord, by perceiving the cord, can infer what is its material cause. Therefore, here Sankhya argues that if the milk does not have any potential cause to produce a cord, we cannot bring cord from the milk. Therefore, the cord as an effect exists in its material cause prior to its production, and it has to be only inferred. The material cause has to be inferred. In this way, cause and effect of inherent relation. The fifth argument, they say that what we can see is a effect, that is a cord, but what we cannot see is the milk. When you see a cord, you cannot see milk in it. What you see is a different form, it is not a milk, but you can infer that it exists because the material cause will be milk. If you accept that, that means in one hand you are saying that something exists, but in another hand you are saying that something does not exist. Sankhya here arguing against Nyaya Vaisheshika, saying that if you adhere at all Asat Karyavada, which says that effect is a new creation, it does not exist in its material cause. If you say so, that means as a cord, as a effect, you accept it, and you never accept that it comes from a milk. That means you claim that something existed and it derives from the non-existence, which is an absurd phenomena. Can you derive an existence from the non-existence? You cannot do so. Therefore, you cannot argue that Asat Karyavada principle is the valid principle or a valid doctrine for identifying, for creating all the objects in this world. Therefore, they say that based on these 5 arguments that we can adhere to, we can stick to the doctrine Satkaryavada, and we can claim that effect exists in its material cause prior to its production, and henceforth all the objects that we see that exist in this world or infer, many of the objects that we infer and believe that there exist in this world, it is because of the doctrine Satkaryavada. If you do not believe on the Satkaryavada, at some of the point you can say that this object exists accidentally, where Satkaryavada or the Sankhya philosophy hesitant to accept that something exists accidentally which does not have any cause. Therefore, they prescribe the principle by saying that every effect must have a cause prior to its production. If this is not so, we cannot say that a particular effect produced from a particular cause. We cannot even say that a material cause has its own potential to produce a particular effect. And if we are at all accepting the Nyaya-Vaisheshika theory of Asatkaryavada or Arambhavada, that means we have a possibility, or we can easily claim that everything can be produced from everything, or without having any potential cause of a matter we can produce any of its effect. That means we need not to think of a effect, what is the responsible of its cause. We can think that if there is an effect, it can be produced from any of the causes or any of the material causes that exist in this earth, which is not the case. Therefore, Sankhya, while establishing their theory Satkaryavada, rejects the Nyaya-Vaisheshika argument against the theory Satkaryavada. Now, we will be seeing now the Sankhya argument in a further form, that how Sankhya further strengthen his argument on Satkaryavada. They said that production, that means the effect is the manifestation of the cause, it is a different form we see, and also said that the destruction is disappearance or absorption into the cause. That means from the gold you produce an ornament, you create an ornament. Here ornament is an effect and the material cause of that ornament is a gold. But again, when this ornament will be melted at, this all ornament transfer to the material cause known as gold. So therefore, gold is the material cause. When you create an ornament, you take the help from the gold, that means the effect already exists in the material cause, and when you melted the ornaments, it will be now comes to existence of its own cause, that is gold. That means the cause and effect have its own inherent relation. When the ornament get melted, then you will find gold, which is its material cause. In this way, Sankhya also argues in a different way by saying that how Satkaryavada really exists in this earth, and with the help of this doctrine we can prove each and everything exists in this earth having different shape, different size and different color. Now, they also claim that production is a transition from an implicit to an explicit condition. That means when an ornament created from the gold, it is a transformation from implicit to the explicit condition. When it is a gold, it is an implicit condition. The ornament existed in the gold in its implicit condition form. When you already created by the efficient cause of ornament, it is an explicit form. It is a different manifestation of gold, but the material cause as it exists. Henceforth, they said that the cause and effect, if at all you say that they are different only in form, not in essence. Please remember, please understand that Satkaryavada or Sankhya philosophy of Satkaryavada, they also adheres to the principle by saying that the effect and cause, if at all they are different only in form but not in essence. The effect is the manifestation of the cause, but when the effect get dissoluted or get destruction or then it again transforms to its cause, the cause which is responsible for create that product or that effect. Now, they said that production is the transition from an implicit to an explicit condition. On the other hand, destruction is the transition from explicit to an implicit condition. That means when destruction is an effect, let us say when you melted the ornament, it will transfer to the gold, you can get the gold. That means the explicit condition of that gold will be an ornament and the implicit condition will be the gold, and henceforth when you melted the ornament you find the gold, which is the material cause. Production is unfoldment, that means it is a manifestation of that material cause, but wherever when it is destroyed, it is an enfoldment, it again gets its own position of material cause. Production is development and destruction is involvement. For example, as I said, gold is transformed into ornaments, and also ornaments are melted into gold. That means, when once you melt the ornament, it will get its own shape of material cause gold. Thus, production is not a new creation, but it is only manifested what was there in its cause. When they are saying that the effect is not a new creation, rather it is a manifestation of the cause, they reject, they completely reject the argument given by Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhist. They further claim that cause and effect, if they are interchanged, or if you find that effect is a different form and cause is a different form, they are having only manifestation. They appear differently because they have a different form, but they are not different in essence. This is the argument they prescribe, this is the argument they adhere to, and also they have given some reason for that. They said that the effect is not different from its material cause because of its property. When you say that cloth and thread, given an example, say cloth is an effect and its material cause is thread, they say that cloth and the thread, they have a different form, but the essence will be same. The essence of thread and essence of the cloth remains the same, henceforth cause effect cannot be separate. Further, they said that based on the quantity, that means when the cloth is created or produced, the material cause will be thread. Here it is said that whatever the weightage of thread used for creating that cloth is same as the weightage of that cloth. That means, they said that the material cause and effect have the same quantitative equality. That means, they are identical with each other. The quantitative equality found between the material cause and its effect, they are identical with each other. The weightage of cloth and threads used in it are same, henceforth the cause and effect are not separated, rather the effect exists in its material cause prior to its production. If it is not so, then the cloth cannot have the same weight as the threads weightage that used in that producing that cloth. They said that the causal relation is seen between cause and effect, hence it cannot be detached from each other. That means, whenever there is a effect, there is a cause. That means, whenever there is a, let us say, curd, you find that its cause will be milk, and it is invariably associated in everywhere in this earth, and henceforth we cannot separate it, neither separated nor conjoined between these two phenomena, one is effect, another is cause. What we can see, why we call that object is a effect and this object is a cause, because they appear differently, they have a different form, but the essentially they are one and the same. The effect pre-exists in the material cause prior to its production. Further, they said the material cause and effect cannot be separated from each other because they cannot differ from their essence. While they saying that, they said that is it the possibility for us we can differentiate the effect from the cause? If we say so, then we have to accept that a particular effect can be produced from many of the causes. A curd can be produced from various of its material causes, let us say cause sand, cause water, cause kerosene, any of this liquid, but which is not the case. Therefore, they strongly advocates the principle of Satkaryavada and saying that it is because of the Satkaryavada the whole world exists, the objects of the whole world exist in a different form, different shape, different size and different color. The last argument saying that can we claim something comes out of nothing or non-existence comes into existence? If we accept at all the effect and we say that effect is a new creation which is not there in the causes, that means we are accepting that, or we are accepting that we are capable of bringing something existent from the non-existence, which seems to be absurd, which cannot be the case in this earthly life. Therefore, the doctrine prescribed by Nyaya Vaisheshika is completely rejected. Now, after doing that, after rejecting the Nyaya Vaisheshika arguments against Satkaryavada, now Sankhya feels happy. By seeing all this counter argument to the Nyayakas, Nyaya Vaisheshika and Buddhism, they further argue to the Sankhya doctrine. They are saying that if both causes and effect are different states of one and the same substance, then why these are not used for one purpose? What they are saying that If at all you are trying to convince that cause and effect are two different form in a different manifestation, they are only differ in their manifestation, but essentially they are same, can you use the cause and effect for one purpose only? Can you use the clay in one hand and pot in other hand for a one particular purpose? We cannot do so, because the pot is used in a different purpose, where the clay cannot be used for the same purposes. In this argument, Sankhya did not have any reply to Nyaya Vaisheshika. However, they said that we accept two forms of Satkaryavada. One is Parinamavada, another is Vivartavada. What is Parinamavada? Is the real transformation of the cause into the effect. That means the real transformation means you can see that the transformation, the clay, it looks in a different, when it will transform to the pot or bowl, it is a different. This kind of transformation is known as Parinamavada, which is also prescribed by Sankhya, or also you can known as Satkaryavada. This is a Parinamavada. Sankhya gives this name, or this kind of transformation is known as Prakriti Parinamavada. In other kind of forms also Sankhya accepts, because Sankhya believes that there are two kinds of Satkaryavada. One is Parinamavada, that I have discussed now, there is a completely transformation from cause to effect. Another is Vivartavada, the transformation of cause to the effect is an apparent, it is a kind of superficial, where this is advocates, or this is prescribed by Advaita Vedantins. According to them, the whole world is created, the objects are created, and the responsible for creation of all those objects in this cosmos, or everything happening in the cosmic order, its responsible is Brahman. That means Brahman is found in some or other form in all the entities, both conscious and non-conscious entities. Therefore, Vivartavada say that the change of cause into effect is merely an apparent or superficial. That they say that, how to understand this concept? They say that we see a snake in a rope. That means the rope will be lie in the road in such a manner that we confuse by stating that it may be a snake, but which is not the case. We see a snake in a rope because the rope takes the shapes of snakes. The difference of rope and snakes are only is a superficial, it appears only apparent, but it is not the true case. These two are two totally different phenomena. Henceforth, cause and effect are two totally different, but sometimes it appears the same. This is said by Advaita Vedantins. Now, this is the Vivartavada by prescribed by Advaita Vedantins. Sankhya calls this Vivartavada as a Prakriti Parinamavada, because for Sankhya it is because of the Prakriti which is the responsible for the whole creation of this world and different objects in the world. In the next session we will discuss what is the theory, that what is the ideas that Sankhya philosophy describes Prakriti, and how Prakriti really responsible for creating the whole universe and objects of the world. What they said is that the Vivartavada, if at all they are claiming as one of the version of Satkaryavada, it is known as Prakriti Parinamavada by Sankhya philosophy. Another philosopher known as Ramanuja, they said that Brahma Parinamavada. That means for him the world is only transformation of Brahman, because if the world you find everything, every object exists, it is just because of Brahman. So therefore, it is a Brahma Parinamavada. That means there is a real transformation you find. Brahman is a different one and objects of the world is a different one. However, the Brahman in some or other form find in all the objects of the world, which is known as Brahma Parinamavada prescribed by Ramanuja. On the other hand, Sankara, who believes in Advaita Vedantins, who is a part of Advaita Vedantis, he prescribes that Brahman Vivartavada. That means Brahman is the sole reality, and everything that we find, it is all about Maya, or because of our ignorance we say that there is a discrimination, we say that these are the objects and Brahman is far away from that. Because on the other hand, they said that Brahman creates everything, and because of our illusory mind or Maya, everything appears to us differently. However, Brahman is the only and only one sole reality. So this is all about the theory of causation prescribed by Sankhya. For a brief recapitulation, I say that Satkaryavada is different from Asatkaryavada. Satkaryavada prescribes by Sankhya philosophy, which is known as Parinamavada. Asatkaryavada, which is also known as Arambhavada, prescribes by Nyaya Vaisheshika philosophy. Now, their argument from each other, you can see that how Nyaya Vaisheshika counter argued Sankhya theory, and how Sankhya also gives the responses to their arguments, and further we said that Satkaryavada are of two different forms, one is Vivartavada, another is Parinamvada, and how Vivartavada considered by Advaita Vedantins Shankara Ramanuja and Sankhya philosophy. On the other hand, how Sankhya philosophy also consider this Satkaryavada in a different form, that we have all discussed. In the next class, that we will be describing how really Prakriti responsible for creating whole cosmos of in this universe. Thank you so much.